Writers, agents, and publishers, for the first time since the Gutenberg Press, find themselves lost in a maze of mystery as technology alters the shape of the publishing industry. Searching for Answers is a group of writers throwing pop culture, writing, and publishing into a crucible of clarity, passion, and humor. This group is the Write Pack. Welcome back to Write Pack Radio. This is your host, David Allen Lucas, author of science fiction, horror, mystery, and poetry. With me today is...
Fedora Amos. I write Victorian whodunits like Jack the Ripper in St. Louis, and I'm president of Greater St. Louis Sisters in Crime.
My name is Jennifer Stolzer. I'm an illustrator and fantasy author, currently querying my first novel, Scared Death.
Which is not the title of her novel.
No. Though it could be interesting. Go ahead.
Brad Cook, author of The Iron Horseman, which comes out in November. I'm also a president at St. Louis Writers Guild and a publisher at Blank Slate Press.
I'm Melanie Claney, writer of science fiction, fantasy, and nonfiction.
I'm Meredith Tate, author of speculative fiction, and my debut novel comes out next year.
And today we're going to talk about something that every writer has always considered going to. Every writer wonders, well, is this one good or that one good? Should I go to this one? Is it really worth my money? And that is writer conferences. Yay! There are lots of different writer conferences. Some are good. Some are fantastic. Some are absolutely, totally scary. And others, well...
are scary for a different reason.
Yes.
We'll go unnamed.
So let's talk about writers' conferences. What do you look for? Where do you look for writer conferences? What are some good places?
A good place to start is Shaw Guides, shawguides.com, shawguides.org, something like that. It is a website you can go to, and they list conferences from all over the world, and there are conferences all over the world. So it's a great place to start, and then just Google conferences, whatever genre you're looking for, anything like that, and then put the year in, because conferences are held every year, and Google will throw up conferences from years ago.
I was thinking also word of mouth. A lot of the conferences I know from people on Twitter who posted about their own experiences, so that's another good way to
Yes,
find
following conferences on Twitter is a brilliant thing. Look for the hashtags.
Oh, and if you have favorite writers or other people you're following, they very often talk at conferences, so they'll usually announce where they're going to be.
Also, if you are trying to query a certain agent or an editor from a certain house, find out, go to their websites, follow them on Twitter, ask them, if they have an open portal to them, but see where they're going to be, what conferences they're attending this year. Then go to those conferences, get the pitch session with that agent or that editor, and, gold.
Okay. One of the things about conferences, let me throw out some elements about conferences. There's a couple different kinds. There are genre-specific conferences. There are conventions, and some of these conventions are genre-specific. Sometimes conventions in themselves are not specifically for writers, but have what I'm going to call writer tracks. We're going to talk about all this stuff. There are expos. Some of these are expensive. Some of them are very cheap. In fact, St. Louis Writers Guild, yes, I'm going to toot our own horn real fast. And I think, if I've got my weeks right, probably the week this is playing, so you might have missed it, but St. Louis Writers Guild has an annual free writers conference in St. Louis. It's at Kirkwood Park from 10 until 2. So if you missed this one, there's always next year.
What is the date of this year?
August 23rd, and it's called Writers in the Park.
And we will try and make sure
this... It's the 5th year.
We'll try and make sure this is actually playing the week before, not the week of the conference.
Yes,
might be wise.
I'll try and bump our schedule real fast.
We'll remind
And there'll
you.
be a lot of great writers there, like Angie Fox, and who else, Brad?
Yeah, you'll have Angie Fox, Heather Brewer, there'll be Sarah Anderson, Sarah Bromley, plus Robin Tice of STL Books, where we happen to be sitting. And then there'll be a whole day. It's a free day, so it doesn't cost anything. You don't have to register. Just show up at Lions Amphitheater in Kirkwood Park at 10 a.m., and we'll take it from there.
Don't forget the sandwiches.
Yeah, if you buy a book, you get a free sandwich.
This is true.
Yeah.
Buy a book, get a sandwich. It's a very, very, very popular thing that sandwich writers
High
do.
five, everyone. We did that. Plug.
Plugged it in. And just for more information, www.stlwritersguild.org.
Yep.
Or find us on Facebook. Okay. Anyway, enough of that plugging.
Coming to non-free conferences.
Non-free conferences.
That's what more likely you're going to run into.
Some states have got their own conferences. Missouri has its own. I've seen ones in Georgia, Arizona, etc. You get the small conferences.
Regional conferences, that's what they're known as,
right,
regionals.
You also get some of the bigger conferences. Brad, a couple years ago, you went to the Writers Digest conference.
Yep, I highly recommend it.
And I've gone a couple years to what's called the PNWA, Pacific Northwest Writers Association Conference, which is a huge conference compared to a lot of regional conferences. And let's see, the last one I went to had somewhere around 27 agents and about the equal number of editors. So a big conference chance to pitch to those people. I may have my numbers wrong, but it's not that far off. There are conventions, and Fedora and I have been to at least one convention together where I ran into her.
Yes.
Back in 2011.
Yes.
And I get to go again this year, yay! Which is Bouchercon 2014. It's a mystery thriller conference. It is for writers. It is for fans of the convention. So, in a way, it's kind of like a science fiction convention.
So what's the difference between a convention and a conference?
Good question.
Because they both start with C's and they're both long words.
And they both can be very expensive.
Uh-huh.
So, what is the difference?
Well, I'll throw it out. So a writers' conference is mostly, it involves writers' tracks. You'll have pitch sessions with editors and agents and other, fun things like that. It's always industry professionals and fun, it's all geared towards writing and the book world and everything about that. A convention is a little bit different. A convention generally has a fan element, and that can and cannot involve cosplay, usually does. A convention can have a writer's track, but usually that writer's track will not include agents or editors giving pitch sessions. And then a lot of times there is a vendor room at a convention, which is the heart of the convention, which is where you go and blow all the rest of your money that you didn't blow getting to the convention. But yeah, and you'll find a lot of things at a convention that you won't find anywhere else. They'll have special things on sale, all that kind of fun stuff.
Real quick, I'm going to play what we lovingly call among ourselves as the Cabbage Head. What is a writer track? And then I'm going to let Fedora answer or state her statements. What is a writer track?
It's a series of writers' workshops. So it's generally several hours of workshops given by industry professionals, generally on topics that, are centered around writing, the book world, publishing, marketing, anything like this.
A track is like, it's part of a larger
Yes.
amount of programming. So the writer track is the portion of the conference programming that is pertinent to writers, while other people are getting tracks that are pertinent to their
Gaming
own
tracks
thing.
and cosplaying tracks and other fun
Well, I have a
things.
question on that. This is more of an opinion, but if you're just getting into things and you've never been to any of these before and you don't have any books published, what would you suggest starting with?
Well, if you're going to be a fan, a convention's the way to go. I mean, there's so much to do at a convention. Think Comiccon, think Dragoncon, think Bouchercon, think any of these big conventions. You have writers signing, you have fans everywhere, you have the vendors selling stuff related to your fandom, all that kind of fun stuff. A conference has none of that kind of stuff. A conference is much more business-oriented, much more oriented at trying to get the book published. So a conference would be for when you've got the manuscript finished, and you want to hit that agent up and try and get them to become your agent, and then get that book to that editor that you just, totally stalked in the hallway.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
You can stalk them in the hallway, just not the bathroom or the front desk or anything crazy like that.
And don't let them
Avoid the
catch you.
stalking aspect of
Yeah.
it.
Go up and be nice and professional and say hello.
Well, I think it boils down to this. Do you want to work? Do you want to have a good time? If you want to work, come to a writer's conference where there are specific workshops that you can learn to plot. You can learn openings, of stories. And you can find editors and you can find agents. If you want to be entertained, go to a convention. Even Bouchercon, for example, I went to a most delightful workshop. It was all entertaining because these people sang the answers to the questions people gave.
Oh, I missed that one.
It was great.
Just because there's no one else here to mention it, we mentioned a lot of sci-fi stuff and some mystery and suspense stuff. There are conventions for pretty much every genre. Yes. Romance Writers of America has huge both conventions and conferences. They're some of the biggest ones in the U.S.
There's also horror conventions, and there's thriller conventions.
Killer Nashville is actually the same weekend as Writers in the Park.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Killer Nashville is a great kind of mystery thriller conference that obviously takes place in Nashville.
One of the things about conventions that you may not get at a conference depends on the convention you're going to. So let me caveat that. And also depends on your conference. But sometimes it's hands-on activities related to your field. Let me use an example. This year's Bouchercon, I haven't gotten my confirmation on get to do this, but if I do, I get to brush up on how surveillance works and following people and so forth. Which, while that might sound stalkery, is great for what I write.
Well, if we're going to talk about what's cool things at conferences, then I got to throw out Missouri Writers Guild. They do a great regional conference every year. And one of the things they've done for the last several years is called Reading the Slush Pile, where they get all the agents together on Friday night who are at the conference, and they sit at one panel table, and the room fills up with everyone else who submitted a couple of pages of their manuscript. And then the agents go through and they start reading, and then they tell you where they'd stop. And if you have a thick enough skin, it can be the greatest learning experience ever. I will admit that a couple of years it's been soul-crushing for people without thick skin. But, if you have the skin for it, it is a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Yeah, there's two aspects that Slush Pile I'm going to add to what you said. Number one, if you go to a conference that has a Slush Pile reading of that kind, even if you haven't submitted, go.
Yes.
It's a great eye-opening aspect to seeing how long it takes for an agent to say, "Ooh, I'm interested in this one," and we have had that happen at the Missouri Writers Conference, and we've had ones that go after reading maybe a whole sentence said, "No, I'm done." And then the other aspect is the soul crushing. If you need, if you don't want to turn to a thesaurus on how to look soul crushed, all you need to do is look around the room and watch some of the authors.
So you're saying go to enjoy other people's pain?
No, go
and enjoy your own pain. You're never going to get better advice than what's coming out of there, because it's all great stuff from the agents right off the cuff, right? They're honest evaluations.
Speaking from personal experience,
yes.
I have both submitted pages and had them read, and submitted pages and not had them read.
Okay.
And you are 100% relieved at the end in both situations.
That I don't doubt.
The first time my pages were read, and I was relieved to have the agent get all the way through one whole page before she said no, and what she said no about was something that, yes, I needed to change, so I went and changed it in preparation for the future. And that agent, when I brought up later, when I queried her in person, when I pitched to her, she said, yeah, sure, fix that thing that I mentioned and send in a partial. And that was the first partial request I ever got, so that was exciting.
There you go.
I think that's a wonderful lesson just in itself, not to be afraid to put yourself out there and let other people have a look at it. You've got to have an audience because, as I often say, half the book, at least, is in your reader's head. Mm-hmm. Without a reader, your book's nothing but a pile of paper.
That's true.
Yeah. I was thinking conferences and, to a lesser extent, conventions are a good way to get your feet wet in the... I've known people that have gone to conventions for like a decade before actually getting anything published or even seriously trying to get anything published. And I think what it was, at least partially, they were improving their writing, but they were also improving their courage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it takes a lot of rejection before you get anything published, usually.
Absolutely.
So, go ahead.
I was going to jump in with the next one, which is an expo. Because when we
Yeah.
talked about conferences,
Yes, please.
conventions. So an expo, which is kind of the third type of a conference, is industry-related only, and usually is not for writers, though they generally do have writers' tracks, and writers do go to them because writers want to sell books too. But it's generally for publishers and distributors and wholesalers and book buyers and all those kind of people to gather up in one place, usually New York, and have kind of a conference, and think of it an expo like a trade show, just instead of, lawn equipment or what the newest fitness thing is, it's books. So it's the titles that are coming out next year, all the greats that are going to be rolling out, those are all going to be at the expo. The buyers are at the expo. The buyers are deciding what they're going to buy from the distributors. I should say the wholesalers are deciding what they're going to buy from the distributors, and the buyers are deciding what they're going to buy from the wholesalers. That is kind of how the actual circle of life happens in the publishing industry. Book Expo America, BEA, is one. You also have Digital Book World has another. There are several, and I highly recommend checking them out. They can be a lot of fun, but they are geared more towards the industry.
It's kind of fun that you mentioned BEA, because BEA in New York is super huge. Mm-hmm. And actually this year, BEA introduced something they called BookCon to follow the expo portion, which was professionals only. I hesitate to say by invite, but you have to prove yourself to get in and get like a press pass to actually be in the BEA. But then they had BookCon, which invited fans in, and that was completely different.
Yeah, that was actually huge this year.
Yeah, there was from what I understand, there was a lot of book fans. Because there's not a whole lot of, you think Comiccon, that's a great example of a convention of a bunch of fans massing together to love something all at the same time. And there's not a whole lot of Comic-Con style book conventions, and that was probably the closest.
Beyond sci-fi.
Beyond sci-fi. But sci-fi, that includes all sci-fi, not necessarily just books.
Yeah.
Right. Real quick, how do you choose what conferences, conventions, or expos did you go to?
Honestly, I chose based on geographic location. Mm-hmm. I went to my first conference last May when I lived in Boston, and I chose the Muse in the Marketplace conference in Boston, which is awesome. I highly recommend it. But the reason I chose that for me is because I couldn't really afford to spend a lot of money on air travel, hotel. So for me, that worked out well, and I think a lot of major cities have conferences so that people can do something.
The Missouri's conference is often in St. Louis for local listeners.
Well, it has been recently,
Yeah, my first Missouri Writers Guild conference I went to because I had just joined the Writers Guild, or I just started going to the Writers Guild. I don't think I'd paid my dues yet. I just joined the Writers Guild, and everyone said, oh, there's a conference in like 2 weeks or something. And I had the money spare, and I had a bunch of friends all going that I just made. And I said, sure, we'll go to this conference. That'd be fun. And I credit that conference with giving me the confidence to try and actually publish a book. Like, my book wasn't finished at that point, but I've been working on it for a few years, and suddenly the opportunities were there. Uh-huh. I didn't know how books got published before I went, and I learned everything I needed to know. And obviously it's taken a while since I'm only now starting to kind of seriously query it, but...
I thought you did before, and now you're doing it again.
I seriously queried it. I did pitch it. I've pitched it every conference since, except for last year's. I didn't pitch it last year's. But I pitched it to actual agents, and I sent queries into those who asked for partials. But this is the first time I've actually tried to just blanket send out query letters to people that I haven't met in person.
Well, and you bring up a good point, actually, of conferences, which is meeting the agents in person, which is why regional conferences can be nice, because at a regional conference, you're probably like Missouri Writers Guild, like Oklahoma. Gosh, there are tons of them out there. Little Rock's even got one. Mm-hmm. Iowa's got one, but it's a little bit bigger.
Cape Girardeau has one.
Cape Girardeau just put out one, too. So
that's 2 Missouri conferences.
And the Ozarks has one, too. So, they're all over. The regional conferences are actually, you'll find them there. They're all over. Check your local region, and I'm sure something will pop up. But they generally have a few agents. So you'll have 5, agents, maybe a couple of publishers, something along those lines. Your bigger national conferences are going to have much, much more in terms of agents and top-tiered writers and New York Times best-selling authors and people who are, you follow on Twitter a lot. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and those can be fun too. And that's kind of the difference between the two. And there's a price difference. I mean, your major conferences are all going to run you several $100s to attend.
And that's in addition to your airfare and your
hotel
lodging and your food.
And all get lost in the crowd because there are so many people there.
And all the drinks you buy for people at the bars.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, yes. By the way, thank you. No.
That's a great place to meet agents, by the way.
Yes, it is.
Do agents ever pay for their own drinks during conferences?
No, they're like
they better not.
Women. They never pay.
Okay. One of the other things you guys have all talked about, very good reasons why you choose what conferences you go to and so forth. One of the things which I haven't heard necessarily is, actually there's two things. One, first off, is the choice of what's in the writer's track. Who is not only who is giving what type of talks, but what are they talking about? That's something which I know for programming at a conference, it's very hard to nail down right away. As Brad laughs hysterically, because we're used to dealing with that on our side.
5 years of planning conferences.
Yeah. But from a goer point of view, I've always find that I'm hesitant if I don't know what that conference is going to have at it. I guess maybe it's also where I'm at in my career of having been to so many different conferences and so forth. It's like, okay, I already have heard this talk. I've heard that talk, whatever. I want to know, is this going to offer me something else? Number two is sociability at a conference. If you go to a conference, and I'll tell you what, going to PNWA, the very first time I ever did, I live in St. Louis. This occurs out in Seattle. I knew at the time nobody in Seattle. I was going to this conference by myself. Talk about having to break out of the introvert shell. Mm-hmm. I walked away with some great friends. See them every time I've gone up there. Fantastic. Third thing is knowing also the cost of the conference and the timing of the conference. If you're like me, and most writers are, in the sense of you're having to juggle a full-time job on top of being a writer, and you've got family you have to deal with and so forth, you have to pick during what time of year a conference is going to be at. I've wanted to go to the Writer's Digest conference. Couldn't happen.
Hey, it's twice a year now.
Which is yay. I've wanted to go to Bouchercon before this year's, but after 2011, but unfortunately the timing was always bad due to work. So there's a lot of things you've got to play into that.
Especially if you have a book coming out, you want it to be fresh. So that when you get there, you can plug it, you can talk to everybody, you have something that you're enthusiastic about, and you can push yourself out on a lot of people, even if you are an introvert.
Mm-hmm. No, it's very true.
Very true.
So if you got a book coming out, definitely think of the conference circuit or the convention circuit. If your book hasn't come out yet, think of the expo circuit.
So, yes, let's pretend that my querying is 100% successful in the next 5 minutes. So now I have to decide on where I'm going to go to help promote my book. What kind of advice would the table give me?
That's a good question.
Get a production date.
That's
the first thing you got to get.
Yes. Know when the book's hitting the shelf. That's a good one.
And actually have it hit the shelves on that date.
But, in terms of where to go, so your regional conferences are going to offer you the ability to sell books, generally the ability to interact with people, and the bigger ones, you're more of a crowd. The difference being, say, 100 to 200 people at a conference, at a regional conference, versus, 500, 600, 700 people at one of the big conferences. But you can get greater exposure at some of the big conferences. More people are going to see you. More industry people are going to see you. So it's really about weighing your options about exactly where you want to go. The expos, if you want to try and hit them up, that's going to run you a lot more money, because then you're talking about buying booth space and a bunch of other things like that.
Also, too, if you can't get into the bookstore of a conference or a convention, as far as being the person selling your book or having somebody sell your book for you, get swag out there. Get swag. Get bookmarks. Hey, if you're a reader, how often do you pass up a free bookmark? Get little postcards that's got a cover of your book or something out there to do. Something, if I'm looking at Fedora, she remembers Bouchercon 2011, there were tables of book swag. And I never saw anybody not take it. Yeah.
Now, would you recommend, though, to do a convention or a conference or a convention? Because,
both, if you can.
Yeah, but if you just have to choose, the convention has more fans. So
here's my answer for what it's worth, and you just nailed it. If I can, I'd prefer to do a convention over a conference, because at a conference I am selling to my fellow writers, who, of course, we're all generally poor unless we're Stephen King and James Patterson and so forth. And the same buck gets passed around. Whereas at a convention, I can hook up with fans. Maybe people who have never heard my writing, never heard of me. Mm-hmm. Shock. No, that actually really is likely. But then by socializing with them, I can talk to them. and tell them about my book. And if you do this, don't be a used car salesman
Buy my
about
book.
it. Yeah, buy my book. Here, have this. No, just by just generally talking to them. If they like you, they'll go look for your book.
And if you give them the bookmark should have the book's name and author so they can look it up later and maybe buy it.
Because they may be broke by then.
Yeah.
Because they just bought everyone else's book.
Exactly.
Well, I think that there are 3 stages. Once you have decided upon what kind of thing that you're going to go to, there are 3 stages of it. Before, during, and after. And in the before stage, you're going to be thinking about this kind of thing. Do you have bookmarks, or as Elaine Viets does, little business cards that have a book cover and just a tad of information, just enough for them to get to her and for her to promote her next book that's coming out. And she says these are great. You stick them in your purse or your pocket. They're handy, much handier than bookmarks, and that's her advice. So you have time beforehand to prepare your materials, because you should have something to give somebody so that they'll remember you. And with any luck, they'll write a little something on your card so they will actually remember you next time. Because the next time you see them at a convention, you're going to want to go up to them and say, "Oh," and say something specific. How is your book doing? Your book title, if you know it, and if you know their name, give their name. At any rate, have something that you can connect to them with. It is a very important thing, because you'll get much better feedback from them, whoever they are. Big writers, I don't care who they are. If you have seen them before, they want to reconnect with you. They really do.
Something that some people do, you have to be organized and actually have this already going, and I imagine you need permission from the con to do this, but like a contest. So give out your name and email address, and you'll give out maybe 10 free, or depending on how big, 5 free copies of your ebook. And then you can ask them if they want to sign up for information about your books or not. That was the
if you have a platform, a place to do that.
Yeah.
Well, Fedora totally hit on the before, middle, and after of a conference, and I want to jump on the after of a conference, because for me there is no greater feeling, no greater rush, and no greater time to write than immediately after a writer's conference. For some reason, you've been hanging around writers, you've been learning about the craft, you've been absorbing information like crazy, and you come out of it with this almost internal buzzing that just has to come out in the way of words. And I have written half a book coming out of a conference before.
I was say
It's a real energizer, I agree.
It is.
Yeah.
I agree.
I've always heard it called being plugged into the creative energy of others.
Could be.
You.
There's something about them. There's just a beautiful energy that comes out of it all.
And sometimes after some Writers Guild workshops, I get a small feeling of that. Not every workshop, it depends on what we're talking about.
Of course,
Most
you got one now
encouraging
last week.
workshops.
Yeah.
The ones run by people sitting around the table.
Like the one yesterday held by Fedora.
Right, exactly.
Also, before you go, there are a number of other things that you can do. Also, if you're able to get on a panel and get yourself out there in that fashion, if you're able to have books to sell, or as we were talking about, other swag too, of course, and never leave anything to chance. I went to Malice Domestic this year, which is a convention. It has a lot of fans in addition to writers, for people who write traditional mysteries, which some people call cozies. Okay? And I was assured that if I sent in the information, my ISBN and so on my book, that the booksellers and my publisher would take care of it. Well, guess what? They didn't. I would have needed myself to make sure that I found somebody, a bookseller who was selling there, and take some books and do it on commission, which of course you don't make any money at anyway, but at least my books would have been out. So don't necessarily believe that you've got it all covered unless you actually get in the pits and deal with it yourself.
This is really talking about the rubber on the road aspect of the business. If you are going to a convention where your book's going to be at, or a conference or whatever, make sure that it is going to be there. I've seen where other writers have had last-second blow-ups, shall we say, and they've had to run and go buy books to bring to the conference. I've got a couple people with their hands up real fast. I'm going to mention something real fast I saw at one convention. I'm going to let you two talk, and then I want to kind of change the table a little bit to the things that you don't want to do at a conference or a convention. Real quick, one of the funnest things I ever saw at a convention, and actually that's going back to Bouchercon, and I've seen it repeated at Archon in St. Louis, is where authors on the panel put free copies of their books on the first 2 rows of seats. Mm-hmm. That one got people to move up, and 2, you as the conference goer got a free book. How cool is that? You, ladies first.
I was just going off of what Fedora said about before going to a conference. Another thing that I would recommend is researching the agents and editors who are going to be there. Amen. To make sure that maybe if there's someone who you think would be a good match for you, maybe signing up for a panel that they're on, or kind of researching where they're going to be if you want to pitch to them. But to do that ahead of time so you're not maybe wasting time pitching to someone who only reps adult lit fiction and you write YA thrillers.
Nothing like doing the homework. Yeah. Absolutely right.
You must do your homework about conferences, conventions, or you just wasted a couple $100, and who wants to do that?
100, depending on the airfare. Yeah.
Okay, good point. You might have just wasted up to a good 1,000, plus.
Even if it is tax deductible.
Yes, and keep your receipts, because everything should be tax deductible if you're a working writer. But I was going to throw out there, if you are going to do the conference circuit, which means doing panels and, selling your books at different conventions and stuff, it's an amazing thing to do. If you're agented, you can even get into the big giant list, which, all those writers can go.
Keynote speaker list.
Well, yeah, and those can easily go for like 5,000 an appearance all the way up to like, 35,000 for an appearance or even higher. So it can be a wonderful world to get into, a lot of traveling, but, if you're getting paid, there's no point in, not going around. Yeah. But the last thing I want to do is throw out probably what I would consider the last of the different types of conferences, conventions, expos, and that's the festival. Book festivals and book fairs and things of that nature. Almost every city in America has a major book festival. St. Louis is going to get a new one this year called Lit in the Lou, which is going to be October 11th down in U City. But there are across. So you have like Lit Quake in San Francisco. There's I think it's the Brooklyn Festival of the Book, or just the Brooklyn Book Festival. But there are a ton across the nation. And usually these are outdoors. Usually they are maybe a weekend or maybe just a single day. They will have writers' tracks. They will have vendors. They will have speakers. They will have, a variety of things going on. Usually it's free to get into. But they can be wonderful opportunities. You can get a booth to sell your book at that, actual festival. I highly recommend teaming together with a bunch of other authors. And, that way you're not putting the entire booth fee on you. You're kind of spreading it out, and that way maybe you guys all make money. But they can be a wonderful avenue to try and sell books through, or to, more importantly, discoverability.
I would add something here about what you do when you're there. And the worst thing to do, of course, is to sit in your hotel room and watch TV. You're spending a lot of money. You've got to get out and meet people. And one good way to do that, I think, is to volunteer. Yes. If you belong to any association, like mystery writers, crime writers, romance writers,
SCBWI,
talk to their bigwigs and see if you can help in their booth. And it can be as simple as, putting together goodie bags. You'll meet some important people in that organization, and those are people who often do you a lot of good, and they're usually a lot of fun too.
Almost every convention out there has a volunteer, group,
right?
A volunteer set, and if you really want to be involved in that convention, it can be a great way. I mean, you never know. You might be the speaker shepherd for Stan Lee. Who knows?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Or
probably won't be that.
Probably won't be, but you never know.
Even though I know she's not listening to this at this time, though I might try to send this an email to her. Hello, this is from Cupcake. Everybody around, most of the people, so not everybody around the table knows what that's an indication. But because I was a speaker shepherd, as proof of what you're talking about, at one conference, I got to meet a literary agent. Whether or not she will eventually represent me or not, it's been a couple years. I've been dealing with other things. But hey, we hit it off. Great conversation. I've at least got one person that I know that is a literary agent. Another time, you're talking about socializing. Did never pitch to this guy at all. He just came over. He was wanting to get out of the pitch sessions for a while. Didn't know who he was. He comes over to a table with friends of mine, and we're all socializing. He sits down, socializes, Turns out he's an agent, and actually represents at least half of my genres. And I get his card from that. You never know unless you socialize with these people what you're going to discover.
And you think that agents probably don't want to hear more pitches because they've heard 50 or 60 that day. But, agents love their work. And they will often ask you about your work because they know
don't
you're
pitch outside of a pitch session unless they ask.
Yes,
Exactly.
let them make the first move.
Yes.
I was thinking, going off of what you guys just said, is that the conference that I was at, I was sitting at lunch, and it was a big table, and an agent came and sat with us for lunch, and she was just trying to eat her lunch, have a good conversation, and one of the women a few seats down kept kind of badgering her the whole lunch about her book and asking her questions, going after her, and I'm thinking, this poor woman is trying to eat her lunch, and you're here kind of attacking her with these pitches that she's not here for that. So I think that's kind of a big do not do this.
Oh, agreed.
And here's the problem. They all talk, so I'm sure that agent went off and probably said something about the horrible person at lunch who wouldn't leave them alone, and then everyone at the agents at that conference probably was looking around going, oh, who was it?
Yeah,
So,
really.
since we're talking about that, what are some of the things you don't want to do at a conference?
Well, let's start off with agents. Don't hit them up at the hotel front desk. Don't chase them into the bathroom. Don't try and pitch to them in the elevator or the hall. How about you introduce yourself? How about you strike up a conversation that doesn't involve the craziness there?
Okay.
Another thing, too? Go ahead.
I was thinking, again, the same conference, is only at the one, but the same conference, they had a cash bar social event at night in the evening where people could just social, meet other authors, meet agents, and a couple people took the cash bar as an excuse to get very drunk before making their pitches, and it was very obnoxious and loud, and something that I would highly recommend not doing, monitoring that, being mindful of yourself.
Yeah, be memorable, but not for the wrong reason.
Hey, I don't know, okay? I was up at Writer's Digest Conference in the Pitch Slam, which is a giant room filled with agents and authors. There were 700 writers and 55 agents in a single room. I'll let you figure that one out. But anyway,
How
so...
many casualties?
Noisy.
A lot. But one of the women who was wandering around pitching carried a bag full of bottles of Patron, and everyone she pitched to, she sat down that bottle of Patron and let them keep it. Now, every one of the agents there was talking about how great it was and how much they kind of loved it, and then other agents were like, wait, I didn't get a bottle of Patron, what the hell? So, on the one hand, you can stick out, but on the other hand, stick out for the right reasons. Let your book stick out.
Exactly. Even though you're at a conference or even a convention or an expo, you're in a professional setting. Yeah, sometimes the booze does break out afterwards. Fantastic. Go out there, have a good time. Don't be the drunk. You don't, as Jennifer said, don't be remembered for the things for the bad things. Remember for the good. Also, too, going to what Brad was talking about with Patron. There was at a conference where somebody, I'm kind of really stealing someone else's story here, but I don't know if she wants to tell it.
No, you go for it.
Okay. Where there was a gentleman who was going around giving out some kind of nuts. I think it was peanuts, but I'm not sure.
Nuts are
He could
very
tell ya.
dangerous.
I know, he could tell me.
He could
But
tell
anyway,
you what they were.
he was giving it out to the agents. Now, here's the sad thing. Every agent who got one remembered they got nuts. They got food. Yay! They couldn't remember him.
Yeah.
So make sure you're definitely, whatever you're doing, at a pitch session, when you talk to an agent, editor, fellow writer, even if it's one out there who, is just much more published than you are, and you look up to them, make sure you generally are rememberable to them in a good, kind way. Go ahead and I'm going to mention some other
One of
things.
the things that's particularly dangerous about giving people nuts, some people have deadly nut allergies. I thought that story was going to end a bit differently, but,
Yeah.
This is an horror tale.
Yeah.
We're not in Killing Nashville.
I need that for my later stories. Anyway, other thing, too, is dress professionally. Now, some conferences are casual. Conventions usually are casual. But conferences-wise, some conferences are casual, some conferences are business casual. At worst case scenario, go business casual. This is my recommendation only. Go business casual, at least for the first day, if it's a multi-day conference, and see what everybody's wearing. If you can dress down, great. But it's usually harder to dress up if you don't have anything with it.
So don't show up looking like Batman at my pitch session, huh?
Yeah, don't show up like Batman unless you really are pitching
Dang.
a Batman story. You know, I'm joking.
I thought it was
about
convention. It turned out to be a conference.
Yeah, keep in mind which version you're going to.
Yes.
When you sit down at a pitch session wearing your homemade costume, you're at the wrong one.
Okay, this is a big one that I've run into several times as organizers of conferences. If you want to be a part of the conference, that's a wonderful thing. Fire off emails and ask to be a part of the conference. Do not just assume that you can insert yourself in. There will inevitably be one or two people who will try and force their books into places, who will try and circumvent the actual way you're supposed to do it. Either they didn't want to pay the money to have their book listed in the bookstore, or they just didn't want to get the authorization from the people running it. Who knows? Just follow the rules, follow the guidelines. You don't want to, like I said, you want to be memorable for the right reasons and not the wrong reasons.
Also, too, speaking from experience having organized a group at a conference, if you tell somebody you're going to do something, don't back out at the last minute. Or even better yet, if you are going to back out, make sure someone else has you covered. Because otherwise you do become memorable for a lot of bad reasons, all the way across the board. So what are some other things that you've seen go wrong, or maybe you did, if you want to admit to it, at a conference or convention?
Thank you very much.
I don't have anything on that at the moment, though I'm sure I've made all kinds of mistakes. But this is for a post-conference. Many conferences will give you a book, like, has a lot of information and pictures especially. And one of the things to do as you go along, I think, is to make little notes about that person so that you'll be able, the next time you see that person, to say, oh, yeah, I talked to you about so-and-so. And keep these books because they can be a really great resource later when you're networking, because that is one of the main reasons that you go to a convention.
Have writing utensils on you when you're at a convention. Huh?
You should always have paper, pencil, or something to take notes and write stuff down. Do not be trying to ask for that or get it, you might even be handed it to you at the beginning of the conference. It doesn't matter. Bring your own.
Right. Really quick, I don't know what it was about what Fedora just pulled out that made me remember that I wanted to say this. So I'm glad you did this. Okay. Two things. One, if you are sitting in a conference and you hear that this person has a Twitter handle or that they tweet and they give it out, and this is somebody you want to follow or somebody you want to know, get that down real fast.
Yeah.
Other things.
Live tweet. Live tweeting is a great thing to do.
You just went to where I'm going. Another thing is find out what that conference's tweet hashtag is and tweet the conference.
Yeah, join the online conversation. Yeah. Be part of it. I mean, I'm still friends with the people that I've met, and some of them I didn't even meet at Writer's Digest Conference. It was too big. There were 700-something people there. I didn't meet them all, but some of them I knew from, interacting with them before the conference, during the conference, and after the conference. I didn't meet them there, but I still, to this day, talk to them. And then there were others, the people I actually did meet and hang out with there, I'm still friends with to this day as well.
Something real fast. This is for conference organizers out there. I've seen it done once. I haven't really seen it done many times. In my opinion, have a computer screen with the tweets going live. It's nothing more fun to watch than to have other writers go, I missed that conference or missed that talk. Oh, look, this guy's tweeting, and then they get on their own cell phones, computers, whatever, and they start looking up your tweets. And it also tends to attract international attention.
Yep.
In fact, Missouri Writers Conference got asked by Brad, correct me if I'm wrong, Writers Digest to write an article about how to put on a conference because they saw all the tweets.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. So back to what should you not do at a conference. By the way, if a conference has a tweet chat, do not pitch your book on that. I'm going to tell you that right off the bat. Don't do that.
Yeah, that's not good. Keep it professional. Keep it about the conference. Afterwards, if you want to throw your tweet up there about your book or something like that, maybe that's a good idea. But for the most part, just tweet about the conference.
Right. What else? Well, we talked about not hiding in your room, not dressing unprofessionally. What about that proverbial guy who, how do I put this, gives up the wrong vibe as he's walking around? And he seems to be getting to everybody's business.
You mean don't be a creeper?
That's what I'm going with.
I think that's for all the time.
Yeah, that's general feedback on your everyday life. Don't be a creeper.
It'll keep you off of a lot of
Blink
lists.
sometimes. Blinking helps you look human.
Keep your eyes closed so the whites don't go
Wear your badge on the right-hand side of your shirt.
Yes.
And in a prominent place, and make sure that you look at other people's and get their names right.
Make sure you get your business cards, too.
Absolutely.
Why right-hand side versus left-hand side? Is
Because we read from left to right, and that would be
Okay.
left.
Good answer.
Of course, a lot of places give you a badge on a lanyard.
Yes.
That's true.
So.
But always have your badge. And if it is on a lanyard, I don't know about you, but I find my lanyards like to turn around a lot. So I'm always looking down and having to readjust it. But you want people to know who you are, not see the back of a
And
lanyard.
not have to look at your gut to do it.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I think I've got big enough gut. I don't need people to see more of it.
I actually keep all mine. I'm really bad about it.
Oh, I do
keep
too.
all my name tags and lanyards and all that kind of fun stuff. Got a whole drawer.
Yeah, you should do a craft project.
It would make a good one.
I could see them becoming a mogul or a tree of
there
some
you go.
kind.
No, I'm waiting for the how they do the military honors and behind the glass.
Speaking of military honors, actually a little bit off of that, but if you go to a convention, I've seen this done by at least a couple well-known, well-published authors, is they've gone where the convention dress is casual. We're talking about jeans, t-shirt type thing.
Or costumes.
Or costumes. He has gone in wearing a t-shirt with the picture of his main character and the book title on it. Talk about walking around with advertising.
Yeah. Well, Angie Fox wears "Kiss My Asphalt."
Exactly.
She walks around with that everywhere.
And
if you really want to take it, I mean, we have to throw up. We got to mention. I can't believe we didn't. We were talking about swag. It's Claire Applewhite.
Oh God.
Who will have huge 6-foot standings of her characters standing next to her. She will have she's had shoe cookies, high heel cookies, because of her books. My personal favorite were the flash drives that came with all her media information, all her first chapters, and all that kind of fun stuff.
I'm not sure I'd trust a flash drive.
There were margarita glasses for one book. She's really creative about the type of free giveaways that she gets.
Look her up online. You'll find, if you look around Google looking for her, you're going to find some interesting ideas.
There are a ton of great ideas out there, and Vistaprint is and some of the Zazzle and some of these places online are great places to go to get all this amazing stuff. You can find it pretty cheap. Tattoos are another one.
Temporary tattoos.
Temporary tattoos.
Also, too, I know I'm going to go, oh my God, you're supposed to be making money when you have your books. I know I talked about if you are on a panel, having your books for free on a couple of chairs. Put some free ones also out in the common areas. Books walk off. Even though you may have not made a sale right there, you may have just gained a reader, and a reader talks to another reader, and guess what you're generating?
Or writes reviews, too.
Exactly.
Well, Less Than Three, which is another conference here in town, and you might be able to find one in your area. It's an anti-bullying conference. I highly recommend it. It was an incredible experience. But they had nothing. They had literally, the hall was filled with nothing but ARCs. So they had table after table of ARCs of the people who were speaking.
ARC being an advanced
Good
reader
point. An ARC being an
copy.
advanced reader copy. And you could just pick them up, walk out. You could give a review if you wanted to. If not, you didn't have to. But it was an amazing thing.
Or chapbooks. Which
Chapbooks.
have only
I love
a
chapbooks.
shorter version.
I love chapbooks. Put the first chapter in your book and just run with it.
I'm going to say right now, I picked up a couple at Bouchercon 2011, both ARCs and just free books. I'm now reading those authors quite a lot and bought several of their books because here I had a nice free sample.
Yeah, it can be a great way. Discoverability is what all of this stuff is about. A conference, a convention, an expo, a festival. If you're involved, if you're just there, if you've got a booth, if you're selling books, if you're not selling books, whatever it is, it's all about discoverability.
You just brought up something, well, ARC, you explained, was an advanced copy, so those are copies you get that you can't legally sell. But could you explain what a chapbook is? And how they can be used?
It is nothing more than generally the first chapter, maybe the first 3 chapters of your book. You generally have a cover on it, and then it's, like a published book, only it involves just the first chapter.
And a lot of publishers will bring out those,
Yes.
which give chapters of several different of their
Yes.
stable of authors.
But I was just thinking you could have those and have those when you're pitching and having.
I have one for every time I pitch. So every pitch I have ever given, when I sit down in the room with the agent across from me, I have the first chapter of my book in a little published booklet that I can just slide across the table and have them look at it and check it out. It is a wonderful thing. It is a visual aid. They see it right there. It's got a cover on it and everything. So
I don't know if we want to talk about pitching etiquette today, or if we want to talk about it at a different time.
it's probably enough for another time, but throw out something now. Go ahead.
Having a pages to read is a good idea,
Yes.
but don't expect them to take them with you.
Thank
you
you.
know, with
Ding,
them, unless they want to. I mean, come prepared in case they want to take
I
them.
have
Heavens,
had
I hope they do.
2 agents in the years that I've been pitching take that little booklet. Everybody else flips it open, looks at it, and passes it back and goes, "This is really cool. This is really nice." Got a lot of compliments on it. But 2 of them, and both of them professed that they were book lovers who could not pass up a book. So that's why they had to take it.
Most of the time, they don't want to travel with a whole bunch of extra paper. though.
Exactly.
Yes.
So.
They have very limited space.
Which is why
and
you
gotta
never
pay
give
for
them
extras.
whole manuscripts, because they
Yes.
would go away with
Yeah.
100 pounds of books.
Speaking of this, if your convention that you're going to is out of town and you're flying, you might want to think about, check into the airline, see what
No. Mail your book ahead of time. So what you do is you get the hotel address and you mail your books directly to the hotel so that they're in the hotel
Or you have
when
your
you get
publisher
there.
do it.
That's even better if you can get your
Yes.
publisher to do it. But yeah,
Not
so
everyone
totally
has one to
do
do
it
it.
that way. Mail the books ahead of time so you don't have to pay to put them onto a plane.
you can also mail books home.
Yes, you can.
But
Okay.
just make sure you give yourself enough time to mail them.
One thing you touched on earlier, which is something that you need to do right after the conference, is look at your monetary situation. You talked about keeping all of your receipts,
Yep.
and you need to make good records of all of this stuff with the dates, what it was for, how much it was, because you can deduct this from other money that you make, as long as the IRS believes that you are trying to make money writing books. And usually that means that you have at least 3 years, because you should be making money in 3 out of 5 years, they say.
Yep.
However, if you are actually working to get something published and you can demonstrate that, chances are you can go longer than that.
Perhaps I've done that.
Well, and the other thing is it's deductible. Like if you make money from the book, then it's like you spent $200 and you made back $50. Well, that $50 doesn't necessarily need to be added to your income because you're really $150 in the hole at this point still.
You should.
Yeah, but
Well,
let a tax
you have
professional
to-
figure that
right,
out.
you have to have-
Yes.
Keep your
Keep
records.
Yeah.
both records.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Keep everything,
Yeah.
and let a tax professional figure that
Talk
stuff
to your
out.
CPA.
But you are a professional writer if you're getting the 50
Yeah.
bucks, even if you don't make a living at it,
Yes.
even if you
Yeah,
lose
those-
a lot of money at it.
Those $50 can go a long way toward you getting a deduction if that is the only $50 you made that year, and it is the only proof you have that you are actually trying to sell yourself as a writer.
Right. And it's really something hard to do, to be honest with you.
Selling yourself as a writer?
Yep.
Heavens, yes.
Okay, any final comments or any final thoughts on conferences, conventions, and expos?
Did we hit all of our different versions?
I think so.
We've hit the big 4.
I just have one final thing to say is that one agent who spoke at the conference I went to made a really good point about conferences, and she said that when she's reading a query letter and maybe a synopsis or a page is attached, she could stop anywhere, the first paragraph of the query, and just put it aside. But if someone says in the first paragraph of that query letter that they saw her speak at a conference, that'll guarantee that she will read the entire submission that they sent to her. Even if it's a rejection, they'll still read it, that they take those things very seriously. So, I mean, that is another pro to going to a conference.
Which is another reason to do face-to-face pitching, too.
Yeah, you're not just a book. You're now a face with a book, and agents love that.
And you're serious.
Yes.
Because you're there. You're putting your body where your mouth is.
Exactly. Well, I'm going to throw out a few last things then. Just if you are in the St. Louis area, so if you are so inclined, August 23rd, Saturday, August 23rd, is Writers in the Park 2014. It's from 10 to 2. Come on out. It's free. Don't even have to do anything. Just come on out. We got a full day of activities. If you're going to be around in October, I highly recommend you check out Lit in the Lou on October 11th. Beyond that, I highly recommend, if you're looking for some great regional conferences, you check out the Missouri Writers Guild Conference, check out Cape Girardeau's Conference, check out Less Than 3, check out Ozark.
Copper-
Check out Big River, even PenCon, or a few of the others that are going on in town. There's even more that pop up all over the place. So, just do some Googling, and I guarantee you're going to find some conferences. They can be wonderful experiences, and I guarantee they're going to help propel you as a writer.
And real quick, and I'll use this as the ending note, if you happen to come to any of the local conferences and you see any of the members of the Right Pack, come on and say hi.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We would love to hear from you.
Yeah.
And I can guarantee you, if you go to the August conference that Brad talked about, a lot of us will be there.
Yes.
So on that note, the Right Pack would like to say, catch us next week and have a great writing week. The Right Pack would like to thank STL Books for allowing us to record in their bookstore. STL Books and Gifts is St. Louis's newest independent bookstore with an emphasis on fine literature for adults and children and the most comprehensive selection of St. Louis books available anywhere. Visit them online at stlbooks.com or in person at 100 West Jefferson Avenue, Kirkwood, Missouri 63122. Tune in next week as the Right Pack will conquer yet another pondering issue in the writing industry. Theme songs for Right Pack Radio were written and performed by Meredith Tate. All copyrights remain with her.